today we've got something green, something fizzy, something sweet, something super healthy.
So think of us as electrolytes with no sugar, just essential hydration for every day.
Taste is very important. India में taste सबसे important है. अगर taste नहीं है ना तो कुछ बिकना बहुत tough है.
Indians consume 7.5 billion cups of noodles and almost everything is junk. We wanted to change that.
You do it once in a while, it's not going to help you. You do it every day, that's where change happens.
You know, once you have more money with you at disposal, you don't eat more, you eat better.
Are people reluctant to move to better alternatives, or there aren't enough alternatives available?
Ultimately, food or a beverage in the end is indulgence. It's more emotional, right?
So why isn't protein as easy to consume as maybe Coca-Cola or Red Bull?
इंडिया में अभी भी सिर्फ आई थिंक 2 करोड़ लोग हैं जो अफोर्ड कर पाते हैं D2C ब्रांड्स. फॉर अस ऑल्सो पीपल से यार पैसे कम कर दो ना, कॉल की बात करते हैं कह रहे ज़्यादा महंगा है.
जैसे इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए फाउंडर्स को फोमो क्रिएट करना पड़ता है, चैनल के लिए भी फोमो क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा. Welcome to another episode of Startup Table with AJ. AJ being me, Archana Jahagirdar, and we are, as we sometimes do, are in the Rukum Capital office. Rukum Capital, as you all know, is an early stage investor, and the idea of the Startup Table with AJ is to engage with early stage startups to understand why they build, what they build, and how they build. So, think about it as a little bit of a repository for all founders out there who want to be able to talk to other founders, who want to listen and learn from other founders and how they are thinking about it. And today we've got something green, something fizzy, something sweet, something super healthy. And it needs a bunch of powerhouse founders to really put this together to make a category that everybody talks about, which is health and wellness. But how do you integrate that into your food, into your everyday habits? When you want to eat that something sweet, you want to snack a little bit, you want to drink something, how do you hydrate yourself? How do you take away the junk out of your everyday eating and drinking habits? So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'd request each one of you to introduce yourselves briefly, and then of course we'll get right into the conversation. Please start.
Okay, hi Archana. Hello everyone. My name is Astha and I am the co-founder of Salt's Future of Wellness. We are a functional hydration brand. So think of us as electrolytes with no sugar and yeah, just essential hydration for every day.
My name is Vinod. I'm the founder of Naturally Yours. We are a healthy noodles and pasta brand, and our idea is to, when we wanted to start this category, we came across a startling fact, and the startling fact being that Indians consume 7.5 billion cups of noodles, and almost everything is junk, right? Made of maida and all kind of preservatives and all kinds of stuff. We wanted to change that, and that's how we started Naturally Yours, to make that change. So I'm here to talk about that.
Hi everyone, I'm Aditya Rahul. I'm the founder of BeBron. So BeBron is a functional beverage brand. We have our products like protein water and vitamin water. We are starting with protein water as of now, with the convenience part playing as we move forward.
Hi everyone, my name is Pranav. I'm the founder of Awesome. We have a range of functional chocolates. So we have a therapeutic range of chocolate that puts you to sleep, helps you reduce stress. Then we also have a men's daily and women's daily, which is like a multivitamin of sorts. And then we also have a very good range of functional cakes that are good for your gut health and brain health.
Hello everyone, I'm Nitesh. I'm CEO and co-founder of Blue Tea. It's a beverage brand, and it's a natural alternative if everyone is looking for any functional benefit. For example, if someone wants to have a good weight, I say someone wants a good weight management, someone wants good sleep, someone wants good for stress management, someone wants for the gut health. We provide a natural alternative and without any side effects. And because of this reason, we have served more than 20 lakh people in their journey of their wellness benefit.
Hi everyone, I'm Gaurav Sanan, co-founder of Odd Fellows. We're a fermented foods brand that focuses on making gut health approachable. The idea when we started was always how can we declutter the mess around all the information we're bombarded with. And through our products and the educative workshops we do, we try to make it a bit easier for people to make better choices. and I'm glad to be here and talk about it.
Thank you all of you, and my first question is, are you guys changing habits, or is it just about building a different and a new product? Is it about creating daily rituals? Anybody can start.
I think it's about creating daily rituals because we are moving towards this wellness side. Everybody wants to explore their wellness side. How can they include wellness in their lifestyle? Rather than having rigid routines, they want to have it as a lifestyle. So rather than making it into something that you have to take this, it should come naturally that okay, this is something that helps me.
Yes, so at Blue Tea, we don't like to change any habit because changing habit requires so much cost. You have to burn a lot, and that's not feasible. We started Blue Tea because there is always a green tea in the market. It was supposed to have some functional benefit, but it was not good in taste. So we launched Blue Tea that we want to have a good taste and healthy beverage. So that's why we launched. There's already a demand for green tea, or you can say a weight loss market. Someone wants a product with good antioxidant level. So हमने start किया इसको, और हमने देखा कि if everybody is having hot beverage, then we'll replace that with good taste because taste is very important. India में taste सबसे important है. अगर taste नहीं है ना तो कुछ बिकना बहुत tough है. So we just move forward. Wellness में हमने देखा, हम जब when we move forward to our proprietary blends, हमने देखा वहाँ भी taste is very important. क्योंकि अगर attrition हो जाएगा, अगर लोग उसको try करेंगे, एक बार try करेंगे, 2 बार करेंगे, they will leave it. We wanted कि continuity रहे. So for us, it's more कि habit में ही रहना है, habit से बाहर नहीं जाना है.
I think I resonate with what he's saying, taste is paramount, right? Unless until, so it's very, very clear and, brand after brand, if you ask from founder friends that I ask, it is the taste that you have to nail first. Unless until you have nailed the taste, there is no habit changing, right? So even for our category, because Maggi is so synonymous for the kind of taste and the convenience. So unless and until we are either better or as good as them, it cannot change that habit of eating something healthy, right? So, and I think every category is going through that. Like, I think almost every category, 5 to 7% of each of these categories next 5 to 7 years will completely change to eating healthy. But they have to first crack taste. Without that, that change is not going to come through.
We started with mocktail flavors in India. The protein mocktail flavors, basically. Flavors like virgin mojito, spicy guava, watermelon lemongrass. Took around 10 to 11 months to finalize the recipe and everything, and when we went to the market it was completely trash because the palettes were not for the Indians, right? So then we switched to the fruit flavors like mango, lychee, orange, flavors like that. The feedback was really positive after that. So yeah, taste is something
It says it all.
He feels the pain.
Yeah, when you spend that much time into something, I understand. Yeah. But like for me, I think going back to your original question, gut health or anything health focused has to be consistent and a habit. The problem happens is that when we try to give one solution, we think it'll fit and it'll work. It doesn't work like that. So all the time when we're doing our work, we're trying to educate people on the right choices, and we also give a guideline, like maybe 4 or 5 steps that slowly if you add to your life, you'll see consistent change. And consistency is the key to anything. Like from the simplest of things of if you're trying to journal, you do it once in a while, it's not going to help you. You do it every day. I meditate, I see once or twice you do it, it won't change. But if I'm doing it over a year, over multiple years, that's where change happens. And that's what we try to do when we try to provide anything, be a product, a kombucha, a ginger beer, a cheese that we do. It's about how you use it in your life. But apart from that, what can you do daily that will also make sure you're getting there? Because one thing can't do it all, but it's about forming habits over time.
Yeah, I think for us at Awesome, it was more like kind of creating an alternate to the existing available options in the confectionery aisle without kind of, having that trade-off, as I think we are all in agreement with that, the taste actually has to be there because ultimately food or a beverage in the end is indulgence. It's more emotional, right? I mean, and what we realized and while you were designing the products also, I think specifically when the product is a functional product, I think how you are feeling while even consuming the product matters a lot, in the absorption of what's going inside the body, right? So I think there we were very clear that the product has to taste good. There is no alternative to that, and yeah, at the same time it has to have those subtle functionality benefits, that kind of helps the consumer graduate from an existing product to a better product, that we kind of offer in the market.
There are a lot of people who want to be founders, and I get asked this question a lot, like what is the idea I should work on? So just so that other people who are watching this understand how to get an idea and work on it. So how did you guys arrive on that idea? So again, anybody can start. So yeah.
Okay. So before starting Salts, I was actually heading a Michelin-starred restaurant in the US.
Nice.
So I'm a chef.
Which one?
It's called Bandiva in California. When you're working in like Michelin environment, it's almost like 16 to 17 hours straight. You're up on your feet by the grill, or even like when you're heading a restaurant post service, you're not allowed to like go home until the doors close. So long working hours, of course. And at that time, I think my hydration partner was an espresso shot or those energy drinks full of sugar, and they started to make me jittery and sluggish, like all things brain fogging, sluggishness was like I thought that it's very natural to everyone, and I felt that if I'm not feeling this, then I'm sick or something. And that's when I started to like change my habit and left caffeine for a very, very long time, and started to see the changes that I wasn't jittery all the time, and if I'm not having a coffee, I wouldn't feel bad about it. And yeah, so that was my point to start studying about what alternative, like what electrolytes or like what functionality I can go to and make myself feel better for it. And I think that was my trigger point, that instead of opening another restaurant, which I really feel India doesn't need right now, because we have a lot of food, I can actually work with my skills to give something better off to our consumers. So that's how I started. Like it was a pain point for me, and started to talk to people, and everybody has the same sluggishness, the jittery or even brain fogging that we don't realize, and it's all related to like dehydration or stress in our lives. So yeah, this was like my starting point for Salts.
Great. Who next? Who wants to go?
So at Blue Tea is founded by two founders. So we both are friends and we met in Chennai. We wanted to do something कि यार लाइफ में ना एक ही लाइफ है, कुछ अपना तो करना है. एंड एक पिक्चर्स आया था 2015 में, 14-15 इट वाज. सो वी थॉट यार इसको देख के ना वी गॉट ए कीड़ा इन आवरसेल्फ, यार अब तो ज़रूर कुछ करेंगे. सो वी वांटेड टू डू समथिंग. क्या करें? वी रियलाइज ना देयर आर 3 थिंग्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर ह्यूमन. वन इज वेल्थ, सेकेंड इज हेल्थ, एंड थर्ड फॉर यू इज दिस वन, स्टेटस. So you have to create a product or service in either of these. So wealth is like MPL. If anybody can make money, then that business can work very well. If someone is, if you give some status to somebody, just like iPhone, so any good trendy cloth, then it can sell. Then there's a health section, which was growing because उस time क्या हुआ था? Before that, it was people were drinking cola and all. और उसमें सिंथेटिक था, शुगर था, तो पीपल वर मूविंग फॉर अवे फ्रॉम इट. एंड वी सॉ ग्रीन टी इज देयर, बट ग्रीन टी बिटर है. सो देयर इज अ हेल्थ एलिमेंट टू इट, बट इट इज मोर इन द बिटर साइड. सो माय co-founder, he saw a drink in Thailand. It was blue in color, and it was made naturally. And when we drop some lemon into it, it turns into purple. Drop more lemon, it will turn into pink. Magical. We thought there's something eye-catchy to it. And it is blue in color, so let's name it Blue Tea. People call it in Thailand butterfly pea flower tea, In US, they call it butterfly pea flower tea, but we say no, it's blue in color, blue tea. Green tea versus blue tea. One is good in taste, one is not. One is bitter, the whole idea. And one is very visually appealing, and one is very boring. So we started with that, and we understood one thing. There's for any consumer, any business segment, or any product you launch, if it attracts eyeballs very easily, then there's something you can work upon. Because then you don't have to get a consumer to come to your product or service. It won't take much effort, and remembrance will be high. Because कहते हैं ना कि किसी भी चीज़ को आपको याद कराना है किसी कस्टमर को 7 बार दिखाओ उसको. बट फिर आर केस इज नॉट. किसने देख लिया एक बार, फर्स्ट टाइम उसने देख लिया किसने ब्लू कलर, और इफ यू टॉप सम लेमन इनटू इट, वो लाइफ में कभी भूलेगा ही नहीं. दैट्स द होल आइडिया कि हाँ दम है, लेट्स स्टार्ट इट. व्हेन वी मूव्ड इनटू इट, वी रियलाइज कि लोग इसको पी रहे हैं फॉर फंक्शनल बेनिफिट, कि मेरा वजन के लिए, स्लीप के लिए, स्ट्रेस के लिए. देन वी एडेड मोर प्रोडक्ट्स इनटू इट, just like chamomile, hibiscus, and we bought range of flowers and we stuck to it. हमारा एक thought था कि हम caffeine free रहेंगे, natural रहेंगे, good in taste रहेंगे, and visually appealing रहेंगे. इस और functional हमारा site रहेगा. इससे हम move नहीं करेंगे. Neither we sell green tea, neither we sell black tea. हम गए ही नहीं. In spite of the fact, matcha बहुत trending है. Any brand in our category will definitely sell it. We are not selling because we are caffeine free and we are stuck to it. Initially it took time, but what we realized now, if you believe in something, go with it.
I think we'll hear other stories also.
Yeah.
How did?
I think it has to be an intersection of what you have as a problem personally, like almost every one of us have had when we start, and intersection of what the consumers also want, right? And that's what truly will make a bigger business, right? And much successful. So for us, for me personally, it was from my kids, right? So when we started at that time, my kids were 8 and 10, and they loved noodles, and they used to have like at least twice a week. And as a parent, because I was in the health food business, I used to feel guilty all the time giving that to them. And it's like, this needs to change. And then we started introducing, millets and all those things in their diet, and they just hated it, right? And my wife couldn't even make it, right? And it was difficult. So that's when we said, why don't we combine this grains into a version which they like, which is noodles, right? So that's how our journey started. And then in my intro, I had given you the fact that Indians are huge consumers of noodles, 7.5 billion cups. So I said, this is a huge market to play in, and there is an inherent need also, and something as a personal pain point. And that's how our journey started.
So for me, the thought process was simple, that why isn't protein as easy to consume as maybe Coca-Cola or Red Bull? So that was the thought process which made me start B-Brawn. Then I realized, okay, there is something known as functional beverages. Then started working in this segment, and that's how things got started.
I think for me, I come from a family of chartered accountants. So, I was pushed into the profession by my parents. Somehow, I wasn't really enjoying the whole process of studying. And then I think CA as a profession, while you're studying, straight out of your school, you are out studying, you have your classes in the morning, then you have to take articleship. So you're there in the office and then again classes. So the schedule becomes pretty hectic, and during the day you are eating everything what you can. You're a kid, so right, I started gaining a lot of weight. And at the same time, I wasn't really able to kind of, study properly also, because I was not enjoying. Accounts was something that's kind of going above my head. मेरा बैलेंस शीट ही कभी मैच नहीं हो रहा था उस टाइम. तो somehow I thought कि and while I was talking to my colleagues at the office, I think सब उस टाइम पे everyone was struggling with something or the other. Someone has to get married, so he's on a weight loss journey. Someone's kind of building his 6-pack abs. So someone's drinking a lot of green tea. It has a lot of antioxidants and stuff. So we just kind of decided कि यार healthy eating, eating has to happen. I was a foodie, so अगर हम खाना खा सकते हैं, then the load of that guilt should not be there. If we could reduce down, that becomes a good play and a good opportunity to do something in it. So that's how I kind of started this business. How we could make healthy eating more exciting and less guilty. So yeah, that was.
Yeah, for me it was a little different from all the stories because my pain point wasn't, my pain point was actually my parents' health. I think wherever we are in our stage of lives, something or the other clicks. But I was an engineer, never planned anything in the health space. I always wanted to be around the fitness world because I was myself focused on that, but I never thought it could be a business. But during lockdown, as everyone had time off, I saw my parents go back to antibiotics very often. This was just the way we've been brought up, but also doctors keep putting you back on it. So I really thought this enough was enough of that. So I tried learning a little more into what I can do to fix it. Gut health popped up, but all that knowledge wasn't useful if I couldn't make them consume something. That's where I started fermenting foods myself. And through that, I saw changes in their body. I saw they didn't need to go back to medication so often. Their problems were gone. But then I started experimenting on my friends, as we do. And my partner, my co-founder, is also my brother-in-law. He had a few restaurants in Delhi. So we experimented these drinks at his restaurants. Saw there was a space because all the kombucha I had out there didn't taste good. And or it was too sweet. So it was that confusion around that product. And I didn't want anyone else's first experience of a fermented food to be like that. So that's where we started brewing ourselves, did natural products only. Minimized the sugars to as much as possible, but also used unrefined sugar, used raw sugar. And as the microbes do, I started falling in love with the bacteria, the work they do. And I thought they were misunderstood. Because we always think bacteria hai to bad hai. And that's where I thought that it's something all around us. It's in nature. It's what the soil is. It's what the air is. Then why is it so misunderstood? And that's where we got onto this mission of calling it Odd Fellows. The microbes are the odd guys. We're just representing their work. And through that education, we've seen a lot of changes. A lot more people our age are struggling with stress and everything around it. So the gut goes back to everything. All the problems can be linked to your gut, your digestion, your immunity. And somehow it all clicked. So I think as a founder, sometimes the plan is not that, but things click along the way. And it's just about taking that plunge that is important. And it's been a wonderful journey. I was a shy person. I'm not a shy person now. I talk a lot. I take workshops of big groups. And I think when you're passionate about something, it just clicks.
So in this entire, conversation about health and better eating, is it overstated because are people reluctant to move to better alternatives, or there aren't enough alternatives available, or people don't know where they're available? Because the not so healthy products are still doing very well. They continue to sell very well. So what is everyone's opinion on this table?
I feel like people want to switch to healthier things, but at the same time, we've been brought up understanding this bad stuff is actually good for you. It's like the rebel attitude that we have.
Yeah, and also it's a point of distribution also, right? The
Availability.
unhealthy stuff has insane distribution because the fact that they've existed for a very long time, and to build that kind of distribution and muscle is difficult. And that's exactly why we will see a lot of the healthier versions of the D2C brands will do very well on QCOM because distribution for that is pretty new, and so everybody's starting from zero there rather than ones who have already entrenched. So I think if you are building anything in this space, QCOM is the first port of call, or your own website is the first port of call for most of us any which ways. And when you build on that, then awareness also gets built and distribution also gets built, and that's how the change happens.
I think most important is awareness, because लोगों को पता ही नहीं कि क्या होगा इससे. So for awareness is very important, I believe. And the same thing, I think, are we able to buy it or not? Cost एक important factor आता है, because what happens ना, इंडिया में अभी भी सिर्फ I think 2 करोड़ लोग हैं जो afford कर पाते हैं D2C brands को. उसके अलावा आप even Blinkit पे भी monthly 2 करोड़ लोग ही मतलब transact कर पाते हैं. सो इसी बहुत छोटा बेस है, इतना बड़ा बेस नहीं है. तो व्हाट हैपेंस, और हम सब ब्रांड उसी के लिए फाइट कर रहे हैं. एवरीबडी इज पुटिंग देयर एंटायर मेटा बजट, कंटेंट बजट ओनली फॉर दैट. सो आई थिंक हमारा जो बास्केट है ना छोटा है. सो अभी हेल्थ के लिए एक अवेयरनेस है, एक लोग बाय नहीं कर पा रहे. कॉस्ट हैज टू कम डाउन एंड दैट कम विद स्केल.
Cost of the product.
Yes, cost of the product.
Selling price.
Because for us also people say यार पैसे कम कर दो ना. कॉल की बात करते हैं. कह रहे ज़्यादा महंगा है. हमने कहा महंगा तो नहीं यार. कह रही महंगा तो है.
But to be honest, people spend on so many things. Yeah, people spend on so many things. I think it's that कितना भी कम कर दो, they'll still be like बहुत ज़्यादा है. Because like I was saying earlier that we have people coming to us and they're like, how are you selling it at such a low price? because they know, they can understand the value of it. At the same time, it's the value. So many people will be like, but Jal Jeera is 5 rupees. Why are you selling it for 150? So there'll always be that space. You can come down to a level where it's approachable, but at the same time, it's that knowledge, it's awareness. When they truly understand what's happening to their body through all of that, is when that little change in the mind happens.
I think India as a country right now, Archana, is going through a transition phase, right? So for say someone like my parents or generations before us, I mean, the priorities for those people were different. So they were actually raised in deprivation. So that's why, for them, the priorities, that's why they were more price sensitive. For them, like a product like a normal, confectionery product was very aspirational. Whereas for generations like ours, which are millennials and Gen Zs, we've actually, walked past that phase where, our parents have actually, provided those things. So now, and now, we also as generations have started, we have the disposable income. So I always believe that, once you have more money with you at disposal, you don't eat more, you eat better. That's the transition that happens. So I think from time here onwards, I think the shift is coming, and I think eventually as we move forward, I think more and more health conscious, better for you conscious confectionery brands will gain more prominence. Same goes with other food and beverages brand as well, where people will kind of focus more on quality than quantity. I think price sensitive will eventually fizzle out.
I doubt.
You doubt?
I completely doubt.
But,
I contradict.
But isn't that data to prove that, in the sense that what we are seeing ourselves, right? And very similarly, so people talk about D2C brands being only a tier A kind of a phenomenon, right? Or a metro city kind of phenomenon. But we are seeing that change, right? Because of this aspirational aspect. And every city that we go, we see that. And for us personally, at least from what data we have, I can tell that for example, a city like Nashik actually does much better than a city like Ahmedabad for us, which I would have thought that Ahmedabad is much bigger, more money power and all of that, right? But Nashik does extremely well for us, even in offline as well as online, right? So I think that aspiration aspect is coming, but you're right, once the price point breaks, right, after you reach a certain volume, then you go to tier 3 as well.
What will happen ki abhi you are dealing with people in lakhs. When you go into crores, if any investor will invest you, वो चाहेगा कि 500 करोड़ का धंधा बनाओ. He'll see कि मेरा
1000 करोड़ का.
वो 503 साल पहले था.
ठीक है उसके मतलब एटलीस्ट ही नीड्स के एटलीस्ट रियल मतलब देखो इन्वेस्टर ये भी होता है इन्वेस्टर के सामने इन्वेस्ट हो जाता है फाउंडर ही से सब में भी 1000 करोड़ इन्वेस्टर मान के चलता है कि ये देखो 60-80% होगा तो इतना होगा
500 बोलेगा तो 200 हो जाएगा
मिनिमम जो उसको चाहिए एटलीस्ट इफ ही गेट्स 500 देन इट कैन गो फॉर आईपीओ जाएगा एवरी कैन मेक मनी इट्स ओके बट फॉर दैट टू रीच you need around more than 2 crore consumers and वहाँ जब पहुँचोगे ना price hit करेगा we are feeling it we have to get the price lower and lower that's why we're able to catch more people.
So I have another question, which is one market in India that has surprised each one of you? Start. No, market. Which market?
Geography.
Yeah, which geography has surprised you for your product?
For my product, I think Dehradun has been a market. Yeah.
I think Nashik has been a big revealer for us, right? We never thought Nashik would ever have demand, even in offline general trade stores, and it sells really well. So that has been the biggest this thing for us.
No, but any market within the markets you have.
I think if I have to talk about in Delhi NCR, I think Noida is something which
that has surprised you.
Of course.
I think for our category products, I think what came is very surprising was Kolkata. The market. For consuming confectionery products, typically cakes, the growth that we've experienced there was really phenomenal and it was really surprising for us.
Which was your market that surprised you?
For me, I think non-metro cities.
No, give me one market.
One market, it is UP.
Which part of UP?
And I think we are seeing the entire states, right? So I think with first for us, UP and Punjab are the major, I think, turn around. Or you can say, हमारे लिए बहुत surprise था कि यहाँ से भी business आ सकता है. Third or fourth comes in terms of sale. These two states come.
Okay. For you?
For me, I think recent past, Hyderabad's been wonderful. Again, I think we grew up with the idea Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, these are the places for our kind of product. Hyderabad's been like very, very aspirational, and Punjab. Like it's also the kind of change because being a Punjabi, I always thought this won't be the idea. Like, don't give me healthy food. हाँ, exactly. कि ये क्या पिला रहे हो? Like, हमारे परांठे का है. But it's that switch, I think. The younger crowd is understanding what they're missing out on. And it's that aspirational content that they really want to change the way they look and the way they grow.
Okay, one part of the demographic that has surprised you, starting with you.
I think it's just too soon for us to say. It's just been 2 months. So in that aspect, it's too soon for us.
Like, I think, the youngster generation, like our ideal, because we started from a parent perspective, right? But when we launched our instant version, it was a younger 25 to 30 generation who had just started out working and all of those. So that segment has started consuming a lot of our product, which is a very good sign for us because a larger audience. And then we also found a lot of kids from hostels having a product. So that was a huge surprise
nice.
for us. Right?
Nice. For you?
So when we started, we thought that we are creating a product only for Gen Z. But when we got to the market, we realized there are people above 40 also who are at a pretty much health conscious space. So they were also really interested in this segment. So yeah, that.
I think for us, women specifically, I would say mid-aged women, somewhere about 40, 45 years of age, that's the insight we got from our trade partners. These are the people, these are the consumers are kind of coming, buying products, which we are selling. So that was interesting bit. We never thought those would be the first early adopters. So yeah, it was pretty exciting.
So when we started, we thought that our TG would be 30 to 40 years of old people will be our TG. But to our surprise, 30% of our sales come from Gen Z.
Oh, wow.
It's a surprise for us.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, for us it was, I think a similar thought. I thought it would be our generation, so 35, 30, 25. But it's been the older generation, but more so the dads, parents. Dads are very concerned about their kids or about their family, so they buy in bulk. They subscribe with us. So a general audience that's really regular with consumption is our parents' generation, well, 60 years old, 45 to 60, where they're understanding that I need to procure something that'll help my future as well. So not just in terms of their own health. Yeah.
Okay, what was that one marketing message or hook that you used initially and that has worked well?
That water is just not enough for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did a lot of things, right? But one thing that we found out, like ideally only 3 words usually work. So when we said no maida noodles, so that clicked the most than anything else that we said because it was very simple and people could relate with it.
Similar. Only 3 words, protein made simple.
Oh, okay.
I think for us, yeah, I mean, specifically like, what we do, a lot of bakery stuff. So no maida, no refined sugar, no palm oil. And one interesting bit, we never thought that no egg would kind of, give us that much of traction. But, it kind of surprisingly came. I mean, I just kind of did it because I don't consume egg. So, that was a personal preference. We kind of designed the product that let's not have egg in it. But eventually, we got a lot of traction just because that, it's a no egg bakery brand. So yeah, that kind of gave us good
I'm
traction.
going to ask you, which I'm sure a lot of people have asked, कि फिर है क्या उसमें?
Exactly.
चीनी नहीं है, मैदा नहीं है, अंडा नहीं है, तो है
Yes,
क्या?
I think for us, while we were designing the products, the bakery products, these actually forms these 3 things, maida, sugar and egg. These are 3 core things, of any bakery product that you do. So for us to kind of, eliminate that was slightly challenging, but we did some, while removing maida, we put in, atta. So that gives a lot of comfort to the Indian consumer that, it's atta, it's a lot of, has high fiber in it. So we did that, we removed refined sugar, put jaggery and honey as the sweetener there. And we're not using eggs, so we used a lot of milk solids to kind of, make it fluffy and tasty.
For us, it was caffeine free and good in taste. That gave us a good mileage initially, and later on, it's more a wellness bit that we are a wellness brand, and we cater to all your wellness needs. I think, and primarily in that is weight loss, because it is the biggest market, I think, around the world.
For us, it was, again, started with a very different idea of being handcrafted gut love. Wasn't as catchy, wasn't as picky. But what's really worked is the low calorie probiotic. It's diverse, it's probiotic, and the vegan side, which we never even aimed at. It's just naturally vegan. So those markets and that keyword has really picked up.
So the learning therefore is that keep it simple and keep it direct, basically, right? In your messaging, so that the consumer doesn't have to think too hard about what is being said or communicated. Of all the channels, I know you will say that you're too early, but of the channels that you've explored, what has given the best throughput?
Our website. Our website has been performing really well, and we haven't started any ads, no Meta, no Google ads, but even then our conversion rate has been great on our website. I think because our SKUs are also very limited right now, so only because of that we're able to perform better on our website. So 80% is just through D2C.
For us has been QCOM, right? So in the last 45 days alone, we have grown 3x on QCOM. So this is like the product is made for QCOM, right? Because somebody like and we knew this 6 months back when we started going into QCOM, because consumers used to call us, you know, I want to make dinner, please send it now via VFast and stuff like that. So that's why we ensured that we were in all QCOMs, and QCOM is the right channel for this thing, and that's been the biggest surprise, and I think for us it has worked very well.
Correct. I think for all of us, the QCOM is something like वो main चीज़ है, but we are still not there. Like that's why हमारा जो sales and everything that's coming from our own website only. But still, we think that quick commerce is something that it's going to be our main channel.
I think for us also, I think quick commerce contributes a healthy 80% of our total revenue, and also kind of helps us reach out to more and more consumer. The product discovery also becomes relatively easier.
For us is a website, because we believe we have to create awareness, because it's a product जो लोग जानते नहीं हैं. People used to consume earlier before Britishers were there, but लोग जानते नहीं हैं. So it was website, and I think 40% of our sales in India come from website, and we are distributed across, but it is a website that pushes everything. And if website works fine, its halo effect is there. Everything works very fine.
Yeah. For us, it's Instagram and the website. Again, we're education first, so it has to create the awareness. But like he said, we're available in many stores now. But the idea is people always dive back to that. And we do a lot of live events because it's a lifestyle product. So a lot of in-person tasting has pushed us initially.
Yeah. Another thing is there, what we have realized na ki any marketplace is not reliable. One time is reliable, after some time it will not be reliable. Website is your dukaan. You have to take care of it. If it is there na.
But Meta का क्या करोगे दुकान में?
AOV बढ़ाते चलो. The point is,
but not all products can increase AOVs, right? Beyond a certain
point.
Yes,
correct. Fair.
Unless until you bundle it, and you know, because some products are high frequency products.
And on one hand, customer बोल रहा है price कम करो, और दूसरा AOV उठाओ, कैसे होगा? ये balancing act है.
More from bundling together. I think we have from 600 to 1200 reached in 6 months, and we are gaining it. We're bundling so much. मतलब every product में 3 units आते हैं. So we are doing it. We are working on fine on it, because initially 600 पे CAC कम था, but अब CAC, you know it, CAC is going higher and higher. As you scale, he is going higher.
वही कभी मैं बोल रही हूँ that that's the problem.
We see the reverse, Archana. We see the reverse. Like if your AOV comes down, your CAC actually comes down. Right, and this has been a phenomenon. It's a very recent phenomenon, to be honest, worldwide. If you see, I was just reading an article today, and a few of my friends, they also sell low AOV products. So in fact, we used to do a lot of bundling. Like we used to have 1,000 AOV and all of that. So we unbundled all of our products. We brought the AOV down to 500, and our conversion rate went from 1% to 6% on the website. Right, and this is at scale. So that compensates for, so Meta basically likes see how many people are clicking and buying on this thing. So they basically kind of put you higher on the auction, right? So if you're selling more expensive, then there are far lesser audience for it to show, and then you're competing with the most premium brands. So it works both ways. But then I think if you for us, if you want to build, unless until we build scale, we cannot survive as a brand. So that's why we unbundled everything, and we said we bring AOV down, and we increase the conversion rate.
Even Amazon also works this way.
Yeah.
Uska CPC will be lower if your product ASP is lower.
Yeah.
अरे but that is a trick ना, वही तो trap है, that to just manage that trap. Okay, this is the point of the table, which now the table's turn. You guys can ask me whatever questions you want. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
What do you feel about the functionality or like the functional everything now that's coming up? So what's your take on this side?
Look, as an investor, my job is to respond to anything that has market acceptance, right? And I think what we've been trying to figure out, is it that there's more hype than actual demand, which is why one of my questions was that. And if we are convinced that there is genuinely a demand, then of course we are interested. But just to give you some context, I've been looking at the functional space even before it became as mainstream as it is today. And actually before Q-commerce, it was really hard to build a food and F&B sort of startup. It was really difficult because Amazon didn't really lend itself well as a channel, and offline is very difficult, takes long time to build. So Q-commerce has of course changed our overall perception of F&B. So yeah, we've been looking at it actually for a very long time.
So generally at Rukum Capital, what's your thesis of investment? Why you invest in somebody, why invest in a brand, and what's the time horizon you look for?
So we are not one of those people who will say, I followed you for 2 years and then I invested. I think that's all bullshit, because I mean, a lot of founders come from backgrounds or networks which are not, let's say, my network or network of investors, and it keeps out founders, therefore then if you are not part of that charmed circle, right? So we are happy to come into a startup even if we haven't known the founder for a long time. Having said that, I do want to point out that your fund size is ultimately limited. So you will end up only doing 15 to 18. So even when we say no to a founder, it's not because the founder is bad. Sometimes there are some other considerations that, it could be the category itself, that could be a consideration. So I mean, while we look at the founders absolutely in totality as our first point of decision making, but then the secondary points also then do start playing. So let's say there are two founders who we think both are good or excellent or great, but let's say one is in commodities and one is in product, then we'll go with the product, we won't go with commodity. So that's roughly, and let's say we've done a commodity to brand investment already, then we are unlikely to do a second one. So it's those things that come into play, and I say this to all founders, that us saying no doesn't mean that that business can't scale or the founder is not good. It's also the limitation of your fund size and how many deals you can do in that fund.
And so where do you put the money? On the market or on the founder? If
Founder.
you do on the founder, compared to market.
Always on the founder.
If the market is not that good, still you put the money on founder?
Look, what is a market not good? Like, there is no such definition of what a market is not good. I think the concern would be like what we discussed, that what's your channel? How do you get to the consumer? Now, we've also learned along the way, right? So we know that D2C, unfortunately, because of the gatekeepers like Meta and all, they don't allow you to scale profitably, right? After a point, it just gets too expensive. It's not a viable channel then, right? So then what would be that channel that can give you that profitable growth? And you need to have that. You have to have at least one clear channel which can give you that profit. Without this algo, deliberately being sort of made to go against you. So you can't win against that. So it's more of that.
So then Archana, so is it like, of course, like you said, a very valid points, right? And also another point would be that the market size on all of these are pretty small even today. Like, let's say QCom, even though QCom is growing pretty fast, it just makes up like 3% of the entire market. So eventually all brands or the brands which you are evaluating, do you also look at the lens from that, can these go offline and be successful offline eventually? Because if they don't go offline, how would they even scale, right? Because of the constraint of the size of the market.
That's that's not true. See, I feel, and I've said this a lot, there's no such thing as constraint of the market. It's a constraint of the founder. Now, let's say each founder was equally given, let's say 100 rupees and said, here's your risk capital and build something. One founder will find a way. And in India, you know, we're very lucky that even 3% is, you know, in an absolute number is very, very large and
so
lucrative.
That's what it is.
Yeah, look at Q-commerce. I mean, nobody is looking and saying, oh, why aren't they going offline? Because look at the rate at which you're growing. So it's also the rate of growth, not just that absolute or the percentage right now, that it's only 3%. Yeah, it is 3%, but look at the speed at which it's growing and look at what the other channels, what is the speed at which they are growing. So then what will you bet on? Obviously Q-commerce, right? So I don't think there are market constraints. Like I keep saying, it is founder constraints. So some founder will come and tell me 100 rupees is too less. Another founder will say, yeah, I think I can build something. Yeah. So again, who will I back?
So capital efficiency comes as a point?
Of course.
So the more capital efficient, the better you are for the fund.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have to have growth. You know,
yeah,
one of the
without
most
growth, there is no
complex,
point.
one of the most complex things I find to explain to a founder is this, that you can build a rapidly growing business while being capital efficient. So I'm always presented with a binary. Either we have to burn a lot of money or I said, no, you have to find that magic formula where you can do both. Because without growth, it doesn't make VC investable sense. If you don't take VC, of course, then you can grow at whatever pace you want to grow at. So it's about understanding that how do you get that market. And you know, according to me, more than capital, time is a founder's best friend and worst enemy. And what I mean by that is, if you've got an early mover advantage, let's say in something healthy. Now, the minute the market starts becoming big and, you know, sort of broadening, the big guys are going to come and completely try and kill you. Right now, they've ignored you so far. So if you grow too slowly, then the consumer is not habituated to your product, to what you're trying to give them. So that's it. You're going to be over before it becomes, you become a big company. Any other questions?
Yeah, so my question will be like more towards from the POV of a early stage founder or a pre-revenue founder, and this might help, the answer might help to other founders as well, that for example, like I'm 23, I have 20 lakh rupees, I invested in my startup. When I started, I thought कि this money is enough, जो मेरे को at least market में तो खड़ा कर देगा. But again, it's a startup and everything flows and everything, तो वो नहीं हो पाता. Then you are stuck at a stage जहाँ पे आपका product वगैरह ready है नहीं भी है जो भी, but you need a very small amount of traction, right? But that's not that big enough कि जो investor को satisfy कर दे, and इतना छोटा भी नहीं है कि आपका PMF वो अभी sort ना हुआ. वो चिकन एग प्रॉब्लम लाइक उस पे इन्वेस्टर का क्या पीओवी होता है?
तो इन्वेस्टर्स को ये चिकन एंड एग बिल्कुल नहीं पसंद आता है, विच इज़ वाई अगेन बहुत सारे इन्वेस्टर्स बोलते हैं कि ग्रो फास्ट, एंड आई हैव एक्सप्लेन द रीजन, राइट? अगर आप नहीं करेंगे ना, तो अब जैसे अमूल आ गया है प्रोटीन एनरिच्ड प्रोडक्ट्स,
Right, yeah.
विद देयर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, उनका प्राइस पॉइंट, who has a chance, right? So which is why you have to grow really fast. तो वो चिकन एंड एग, दैट मीन्स आपने यू नॉट कैलकुलेटेड कैपिटल रिक्वायरमेंट. सो जो मेरा एक बहुत फेवरेट सवाल है सारे फाउंडर्स के साथ, कि हाउ मच कैपिटल विल यू नीड टू गेट टू अ सर्टन साइज एंड स्केल. तो मोस्ट फाउंडर्स अंडर एस्टिमेट, या तो बहुत कम मांगते हैं या बहुत ज़्यादा मांगते हैं. तो ज़्यादा भी ख़राब है और बहुत कम भी ख़राब होता है, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली ये बिजनेस है, और बिजनेस में पैसा कैसे डिप्लॉय करना होता है और कैसे यूटिलाइज करना होता है बहुत ज़रूरी होता है. सिर्फ प्रोडक्ट से नहीं बात बनती है. तो ऐसे समय में आई थिंक एंजल्स आर योर बेस्ट फ्रेंड्स एट दिस पॉइंट. इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स को ये पॉइंट बिल्कुल नहीं, अगर वो ऑलरेडी आप में इन्वेस्टेड हैं तो वो आपको भी ब्रिज दे देंगे, बट इस स्टेज पे वो आना बहुत मुश्किल होता है. तो यू विल हैव टू थिंक अबाउट कि आपने 20 लाख को कैसे यूटिलाइज करना है. तो इट्स नॉट अगेन कि कितने पैसे की ज़रूरत है, बट जो है आपके पास उसको आपने कैसे एलोकेट करा है, कहाँ पे, तो वो बहुत ज़रूरी होता है.
I think, yeah, I mean, not a question, but an advice. I think for founders.
You're giving me advice?
No, I just take your advice. Yeah.
Okay, no, but I'll take advice also
No,
because
I want
founders, investors are not perfect.
Like, take your advice on it. Like, should growth be always chased, even if it's coming at a cost? Like
Dekho, that's the point I made earlier
it depends.
also.
No, that's what she's
See,
saying.
growth is if you don't grow, somebody else will take that vacuum in that market. Then your customer acquisition cost will be more expensive. अगर customer के पास 10 लोगों की choice है ना, why should they come to you? So then you'll have to find a way to explain that to the customer, and then customer price देखेगा या बोलेगा उसका ज़्यादा tasty है और it's more easily available, उसका channel distribution ज़्यादा अच्छा है आपसे. So then you're competing even more, which is why investors like कि जल्दी से you build that company so that you don't allow anybody else that vacuum, right? तो वो बहुत ज़रूरी है. But what investors don't like is, see, where does a high burn come from? It's not just to get the market share. It comes जब गलतियाँ बहुत होती हैं. गलतियाँ होंगी, सब स्टार्टअप्स में गलतियाँ होती हैं. But again, अगर आप you take a wrong bet and you say कि चलो यहाँ पे 3 करोड़ में लगा देता हूँ and your total raise is 4 crores.
Yeah.
Then you'll have no runway left. That's what investors don't like. अगर आपका टोटल फंड रेज 4 करोड़ है, आपने एक बड़ी बैठ ली, उसमें 50 लाख लगा दिए, 70 लाख लगा दिए, दैट गोज रॉन्ग, दैट्स फाइन, यू स्टिल हैव इनफ कैपिटल टू डू अदर थिंग्स. तो इट्स अबाउट दैट, बट यू हैव टू ग्रो. आप सी एसएमई और स्टार्टअप में क्या अंतर है? बेसिकली ये अंतर है. एसएमई विल टेक 30 years, 40 years आराम से, मतलब कोई जल्दी नहीं है, वो टैलेंट नहीं लेके आएगा, वो प्रोफेशनल्स को नहीं लेके आएगा, ईसॉप किसी को नहीं देगा. Startups have to look at 10-15 years to get to a sizable point. उससे अगर आपने, मैं इंडिया की बात कर रही हूँ 10 to 15 years, अमेरिका में तो it's expected in 5 years because it's a deeper market. We are not so deep as a market. So you can take, but if you look at how startups are growing, अब Zomato took what 15-16 years, but now जो tech में startups आ रहे हैं, they're growing much faster in a shorter period of time. Yeah, so that's the journey.
So Archana, what we have realized during our course now, unit economics is very important.
मैं वही तो बोल रही हूँ, everything is important and that is the challenge in front of a founder ना, कि आपको unit economics भी चाहिए, sale and growth भी चाहिए.
तो चाहिए, that's the true.
But when you say size, so when you say considerable size, what is that considerable size? Is it 100 crores, 500 crores, or 1,000 crores?
No, depends on
or
how,
it depends upon category to category.
No, it depends on how long you've been at the business, and again, which goes back to the point I was making. If you're not fast enough, right? Now, in आप सबकी जो category में, because there was no QCOM, there was no channel that really supported you, and D2C, which should have been the natural choice because of the natural problems with D2C. So you guys didn't have a channel that allowed that kind of growth. Now you have QCOM, but even in QCOM now, because they are also going ad spend, commissions, वगैरह, so it has to be profitable at a certain point. आप ठीक है, initially you've taken a little bit of a loss to open a channel.
True.
Correct.
But can't
The number should keep getting better.
You can't keep taking losses forever, ना? फिर पैसे कब बनेंगे?
Absolutely.
So the duration is also a function of like, let's say 50 crore पहुंचने में, maybe it takes 4 years, 5 years, right? Because category was so new, channel नहीं था. But 50 से 500, can you compress that timeline? Because आपको पता चल गया है कि customer कौन है, किस price पे बिक सकता है, you opened enough channels, you understand NPD. तो अब it should not take you 50 से 500 की journey can't be another 20 years then. That's also another way to look at it.
Absolutely.
हाँ.
But Archana का बताओ, QC पे जहाँ तक मैंने इतने ब्रांड्स फाउंडर से बात करता हूँ, उस पर प्रॉफिटेबल रहना बहुत टफ है फाउंडर्स के लिए, बिकॉज द काइंड ऑफ मार्जिन दे टेक, the kind of discount they ask and kind of spends they ask. So it's become very difficult for founders to get profitable in QC.
But again, my point of view is this about founders. देखो आप लोग ना you accept this as a status quo कि अगर हम Q-commerce पे नहीं गए, अगर हमने ये नहीं दिया तो नहीं होगा. But think like a big brand also कि they use different levers. They use different levers. Big brands क्या करेंगे कि अरे कस्टमर को चाहिए, कस्टमर में इतनी डिमांड they'll generate. So you can use your marketing channels to create that hype and demand so that Q-commerce is then forced to keep you because they are losing a sale अगर आपका product नहीं है, right? And then the uniqueness of the product also makes a difference. So again जो मैंने पहले बोला अगर 10-15 choices हैं या 20 choices हैं Q-commerce के पास भी
करेक्ट
तो वो कस्टमर को क्या बोलेगा इट्स लाइक वो तो किराना स्टॉक कीपर ऑल्सो डज अरे अच्छा नेस्कैफे नहीं है आप ये वाली कॉफ़ी ले लो ये अच्छी कॉफ़ी है और कस्टमर को नहीं पता है कि उसको मार्जिन मिल रहा है ज़्यादा या इंसेंटिव मिल रहे हैं इसलिए वो रेकमेंड कर रहा है तो कस्टमर ट्रस्ट तो किराना स्टोर तो उससे वो ले लेगा एंड एक बार वो सैम्पलिंग हो गई इन अ सेंस वो फ्री की सैम्पलिंग तो नहीं हुई पैसे दे के सैम्पलिंग उन्होंने करवाई है सो देन यू से कि बहुत ज़रूरी होता है कि आपने कस्टमर को क्या बोला है वो हुक क्या दिया है कि वो सिर्फ आपका प्रोडक्ट एंड अगर आप बड़े ब्रांड्स को भी देखोगे ना हर चीज़ का सब्स्टिट्यूट होता है बट विच इज़ वाई दे कीप रीइंफोर्सिंग एंड दैट्स सिनोनिमिटी कि ठंडा मतलब कोको कोला ठंडा मतलब कोको कोला कभी नहीं था ठंडा मतलब ठंडा पानी होता है ठंडा कुछ भी हो सकता है बट दैट मैसेजिंग बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट
बट इसमें एक चीज़ है ना चैलेंज देखो आप जो कह रहे हो कुछ फाउंडर्स कर पाते हैं ऑब्वियस है जिससे बहुत लेकिन जो आप कह रहे हो कंपेयर कर रहे हो आप बिग कंपनी से मैं
बिग कंपनी से कंपेयर नहीं कर रही हूँ मैं ये बोल रही हूँ you've got to learn from them.
Yes, agreed.
How do you create levers for yourself so that the quick commerce guys give you better terms?
Quick commerce, what we have seen, no, they love seasonality, right? So one trick that we used, I can share that, is we during the mango season we launched something called as mango noodles. Nobody has ever made anything before that way, but we wanted their attention, and this was the easiest way to get in, right? And when we said that this is what we are launching, nobody in the world has done it before, and we are doing with Alfonso Mango, and we sent it to the Blinkit team, and they just loved it. So once it was on Blinkit, the Zepto team saw it, and they were like, "Mere ko bhi chahiye," right? So that created not massive revenue pools for us, but gave us a good brand pull. Right now, they know that this brand is working in what they want. So every channel will be that way. I think Qcom, what they like is they like seasonality. They like something unique built for them with like Go Zero does.
They are differentiator. तो हमने मार्केट क्रिएट किया है हमको मतलब हमारे इतना चैलेंज नहीं लेकिन
आप उनके लिए कुछ यूनिक
डिफरेंशिएटर नहीं है तो उनके लिए चैलेंज
but you build with them
but they cannot exist na so that's exactly my point but the final word on this guys I'll say this जैसे इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए फाउंडर्स को फोमो क्रिएट करना पड़ता है चैनल के लिए भी फोमो क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा यू विल हैव टू फाइंड योर यूनिकनेस अगर आप एक मी टू ब्रांड बना रहे हैं तो यू विल लूज दैट रेस मैं ये एंड दिस इज व्हाट एन इन्वेस्टर इज ऑल्सो लुकिंग फॉर कि व्हाट इज द यूनिकनेस अगर वो फाउंडर वो बना पाता है कि नहीं बिकॉज हर जगह आपको यही सवाल मिलेगा चाहे कस्टमर हो इन्वेस्टर हो चैनल हो सो दैट विल बी द ओनली थिंग दैट विल हेल्प यू ग्रो फास्टर एंड फास्टर नथिंग एल्स विल हेल्प यू एंड गुड नेगोशिएशन स्किल्स डोंट गेट इंटिमिडेटेड कि क्यू कॉमर्स के बिना आई विल डाई दे ऑल्सो नीड यू नीड देम इट्स अबाउट Can it be a win-win as opposed to win-lose?
आपको एक recent example देता हूँ बहुत नाम नहीं बताऊँगा किसका है
बता
तो they asked 50 lakhs from us I said no ही करना they said 25 नहीं करना we are building a category there you will come to us कि भाई ये category यहाँ पे इतनी बड़ी बन गई है you will be आपको आना पड़ेगा हमारी pricing पे और हमारे margin पे till the time you are not being there we are just building on Blinkit कि एक category हम बड़ी बना देते हैं so I think
that is what I mean you'll have to find a way to negotiate find something that they want that you have that's it I'm not saying you can be like a big company obviously not so on that very I think happy note I'd like to conclude this startup table with AJ and I want to thank all of you it was a very enriching conversation and a fruitful conversation for all of us to all the viewers, I would request all of you to subscribe, share, like this channel because the insights that the founders share for all of you is so important. And we learn by talking to each other, by listening to the stories of other founders and all the founders who come to the startup table with AJ take time out of their very, very busy schedules to share their journey, their stories. So please do like, subscribe and share our channel. And I also want to ask, what is it that you want to hear? Which are the founders or categories you want to learn more about? And we'd be happy to invite those founders to this table. Thank you for watching.